what the problem is with the sound. I really apologize. Can you? Yeah. Jessica, I'm gonna put you on the host. You can see if you can get the recording, the sound going. I'm very sorry.
Can you hear us, Elaine? No, she cannot hear.
Can you hear me? Someone give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
Can you hear us?
Jessica, I can't hear you.
No,
I'll let this person in. We practiced all day and everything was working perfectly. And then okay. Okay, hang on a second. I have someone coming to give us technical support.
Because you have right here. But I need to get over. Where's the cursor? Okay. Can someone talk? Hello. Good morning.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Good morning.
All right, really sorry about that. Ian, you want to share the slides again? And we'll continue with our introductions. I think we ended on Ian.
Okay, hold on one second.
So Ian, you want to introduce yourself?
Ian McCullen, Program Specialist for Middle Schools. Good morning.
Sorry, everyone. Rudy,
Hi, Rudy Delana, Program Specialist for High Schools.
Mandy,
Mandy Nicholson, a behavior analyst with the district.
Stephanie,
Stephanie Kilpatrick, special education teacher.
Nettie,
Nettie Liolo, coordinator of psychology and counseling.
Aaron,
Erin Lahr, special education coordinator.
Debbie,
Debbie Mabry, special education coordinator.
and Kumi.
Kumi Smart, coordinator of special education elementary school, supervising OT and assist.
And our emergency tech support for for this today. Okay.
Please start the recording again.
I think I never stopped it.
Yeah, it's on.
So next slide. All right, so yes, in case you didn't figure it out already, our presentation is being recorded. Please save your questions for the end. And parents, if you could turn your microphones and cameras off. The way that we're gonna be handling questions today is we're gonna request that you put the questions in the chat. We have 4 program specialists who are managing the chat, and they'll read your questions, and then someone on the panel of those 13 people I just introduced will answer the question for you. If we don't, we do end today at 11:30. If we don't get to your questions, we are going to save the chat, answer the questions, and post the answers to the questions with the recording on the district website. Okay, next slide. So if you haven't noticed, our classrooms have completely changed. I don't know if you guys remember what I'm letting people in. Our classrooms were like prior to March. It's been a big change for us. Next slide. Does this look familiar? I know a lot of us are struggling. Next slide. So how do we work together to ensure the success of our students? We're going to be talking, we have 4 areas that we're going to be talking today. We're going to talk about strategies for distance learning. We're going to talk about scheduling and setting up the environment and creating community. And we're also going to be talking about health and wellness. And we're actually going to start with the health and wellness piece just because in order to access learning and in order to be prepared to learn and ready to learn, we need to be in the right mindset. So Nettie Laiolo's gonna start us off. Nettie?
Good morning, everyone. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here. And next slide, please. We are going to start off with a video from Mind Yeti about getting our mind ready with Mind Yeti. We can't hear the video.
Thoughts that help you
there we go.
figure things out, like your homework. Feelings that can change your mood. And sensations from your body that tell you things, like you're hungry. We call these thoughts, feelings, and sensations hubbubbles. Sometimes, though, the hubbubbles can get pretty distracting. Isn't that right, Yeti? We call this the hubbub. The hubbub makes everything harder than it needs to be. Yep, the hubbub can be a real pain in the brain. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can settle the hubbub with Mind Yeti. Listening to Mind Yeti can strengthen your mind and settle the hubbub. You'll learn to calm your mind, focus your attention, and connect better to the people and world around you. Settle the hubbub and get your mind ready with Mind Yeti.
Next slide, please. So I like to start off with that. And I think that, like, as Dr. Semple said, we want to start with being ready to learn, right? We have a lot of great strategies for you today to help your kids engage and be ready to learn. But I think at the very base, sometimes we want to start with that overall wellness. And so when we talk about wellness, I know it's like the hot word right now, right? And when we talk about wellness, the one thing I really want to focus on is, one, it's a philosophy, right? It's the goal. It's where we want to go. And everything is so interconnected. If you look there, we have emotional wellness, environmental wellness, financial wellness, intellectual wellness, occupational wellness, physical wellness, social wellness, and spiritual wellness. And all of those are interconnected. And so I know, I mean, just think about a time where you might have had some financial stress. I'm sure it impacted how you felt emotionally, or it might have even impacted you at work with how stressed you were about your financial wellness at that time. So when we look at wellness, we talk about wellness, it's the philosophy, it's our goal, it's where we want to go, and all the pieces are so interconnected. So well, now we're talking about our philosophy and our goal of being overall wellness. We need to go back to our basics and what are our needs. So in order to get towards wellness, in order to be ready to learn, we have basic needs. And so Maslow created the hierarchy of needs. And if you look here on the left, you'll see Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which starts with physiological needs being met. That's food, shelter, safety, also a piece of shelter, feeling safe, feeling protected. Then we get up to love and belonging. So if we're not feeling physiologically safe, if our physiological needs aren't being made and being met, and we don't feel safe, we may not be able to or not be in a position to really interconnect with each other and have good friendships or work on our friendships because we don't have our physiological and safety needs met. Then we have esteem and self-actualization. Now, self-actualization is our goal. I like to think of that more in their overall wellness as well. On the right, we have what our school needs are. And so if we take Maslow's hierarchy of needs, flip it over to what it would look like for school and in education, a classroom, and in the home environment now, because now we have classrooms. Our classrooms are now at home, right? So we look at physiological safety is going to be looking at things like eating breakfast, right? It's going to be things like being able to sleep, getting sleep, feeling emotional. Then we go to safety. How do they feel emotionally and physically safe? We're looking at class routines, access to counselors and nurse, which yes, although they will be learning distance-wise, they still have access to counselors. Belonging, forming relationships, right? Esteem, positive classroom culture, and then all the way at the top is our students being able to learn. Next slide, please. So just like we look at overall wellness is our goal and our philosophy, right? And we have to have basic needs met in order to be able to work towards that. When we look at SEL or social emotional learning, I look at that as how we prepare our students. This is how we prepare our students with the skills that they need to be able to really get to that point of wellness and getting their needs met. So for example, we look at, and I also look at these as our skills to help reduce the hubbub and the pain in the rain that Mind Yeti discussed. So we're looking at self-awareness. We're looking at social awareness. We're looking at responsible decision-making. We're looking at self-management and relationship skills. So if we would tie this back to our overall wellness, we got social awareness and relationship skills. That's how we're going to do and increase our social wellness, right? When we look at emotional wellness, that's where we're looking at our self-awareness, being able to identify our emotions. We look at how to get to that financial stability and that occupational wellness. That's going to involve responsible decision-making and self-management, such as goal setting. And so we are teaching SEL in our elementary and middle schools. We are doing second step in our first, fourth, and sixth grades. And we've also done a lot more online and recorded SEL lessons through second step lessons since we've moved to remote learning. Next slide, please. So when we talk about self-awareness and emotions, I think one of the most important things you can do as a parent is check in with your child and check in daily. And I'm sure a lot of you already do this, but it's part of it is the checking in with them, right? It's looking at going back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Are their physiological needs being met, right? Do they feel safe? Because maybe when you're checking in with them, you think they're safe because you've created this wonderful, amazing, safe environment, but for some reason, they're communicating to you that they don't feel safe. Thank you. So, and the other thing that you want to do is I include the feelings wheel here because I think a lot of times we get caught up in the common responses to how are you feeling or how are you doing? Fine, good, tired, bored, right? And I also think about teenagers. I think they probably often give us the bored response, right? And so I like to share the feelings wheel because you can really look at it. How are you really feeling? Right? Are you feeling bored or are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling tired or are you exhausted? Are you happy or are you overjoyed? Are you stressed, but also hopeful. That's why I like to include our feelings wheel. And then we have a little video here to talk about how you can validate your children's feelings. Video, please. No, the other video. There's a video on the, there's a video on the other slide. Thank you.
What's the best way to connect with your kid? I would say this, look for an opportunity not to solve their problem. So as a parent, we become natural problem solvers. Your kid comes home from school and they say, listen, my best friend, they sat with someone else during lunch. I raised my hand in class for like an hour. My teacher, they didn't call on me. Immediately, we start solving their problems, whether that be encouraging them to help solve their own problem or us giving them a solution. So our kids learn very quickly that parents are anxious when it comes to negative emotions. We don't really want them to have them. We want them to go away as soon as they express them. Hey, how was your day? And they're gonna say, fine. It's gonna shut them down very quickly. What'd you do today? Nothing. Right? So we get these answers and you're wondering to yourself, why aren't they opening up to me? So what I say is try and look for an opportunity where your child comes to you and don't solve their problem. They're going to come to you and they're going to express something, a negative thing that happened, a challenge. And what you're going to do is bite your tongue, pause, and take a deep breath. Okay? That's the first step. And then you're going to empathize with them. You're really going to think about the time in your life when someone didn't sit with you at lunch, the time in your life when you were trying to get someone's attention and they didn't give it to you. And you're going to say, you know what? I get you. I understand you. Because that's what your child is looking for. They want you to get them and they want to feel that. So empathize with them. And then help them label their emotions. Kids are going through a lot of emotions. They might not understand what it is they're going through. They understand happy and sad, but they might not understand the nuance of maybe they feel jealous, maybe they feel embarrassed. And you want them to really start to understand those emotions. Why? Because it's less scary when you get it, when you understand what you're going through. So pause, empathize, label the emotion, and then you can start to solve problems. I'm Rini Jane, and you've been watching Quickies. Connect with me at yourtango.com/experts/Rini Jane. Visit me online at gozen.com.
And so as you can hear from her, as she says so well and eloquently, she's also talking about how you can work on your students' social emotional skills at home. Those are skills, as you talk about, she's talking about identifying emotions. She's talking about helping your children problem solve themselves and helping them learn how to problem solve as opposed to solving problems for them. Next slide, please. So I want to take a step back and really look at the action plan. In the beginning, I talked a little bit about wellness as the overall philosophy. It's where we want to get to, right? It's our goal. But we also have to remember that the action plan to get there is self-care. And so I put up here one of my favorite quotes, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And so I think that it's important as parents and even as educators that we step back and think about how we are taking care of ourselves and practicing our self-care, because the kids are looking to us. Our children, our students, they're looking to us and they're learning from us. And what are we modeling? And I think that it's important that for us to be there for them and help them, it's important for us to make sure that our cup isn't empty. And so there's different types of self-care. And if you look here, you can see that they're kind of tied back to some of those parts of the wellness wheel. You know, we have financial self-care, we have physical self-care. Sleep is one of the best things you can do, is getting a great night's sleep is one of the best things you can do for self-care. Emotional self-care, stress management, compassion, kindness, social self-care, support systems. And so here are some examples of self-care. And again, this is our action plan. This is how we're going to get to, and self-care is not just for you, it's teaching your your children how to care for themselves as well, to help their cup to be more full so that they are able to be more ready to learn. Next slide, please. And so we also have a few resources that I like to share before my section is done. Here you'll see Mind Yeti, who we saw earlier in. Can we please click on Mind Yeti? And what you will see is that there's a lot of different videos. We just showed you the very beginning video, but as you can see, there's a little video on mindfulness. There's stuff on finding your Yeti body, listening. There's a lot of great breathing exercises in there. You know, we have a Mind Yeti subscription in the district, and I know some of our counselors use Mind Yeti as part of their DIS counseling with some of our students. And so they're great tools. You can use them at home, you can access them at home, and just know that we're using them with our students as well to help them to learn to relax and do more self-care and breathing exercises. And can we go back please to the other, on the right, our second step. Second step, they have a lot of great resources for parents as well. We are continuing to do second step lessons, even though we're distance learning right now. Our counselors have been recording the lessons and putting them in their Google Classrooms. But there's also, here is the resources for parents. And so parents can do second step lessons with their children as well. And then if we can go back, I'd like to show you guys two different other resources, which are calming rooms. And we have our, some of our counselors have created virtual calming rooms. So if your student, or even yourself, I mean, hey, this isn't just for our students, right? This is, the virtual calming rooms are great. The things on here can be used by elementary students, middle school, high school students, and they can be used by parents. And as you can see, you click on music and soothing sounds, you'd get music and soothing sounds. Visual relaxation, we'll get visual relaxation. There's yoga, stretching exercises, guided meditations to help relax. There's coloring and creativity, puzzles and games. And there's also a list of stress relief apps. And if we can go back and click on the word rooms, we'll see another resource, and that is open to everyone. That's Angelica Jones, the counselor at Towers Elementary, created that virtual calming room. And this is Mrs. Spector, who is our counselor at Walteria, or one of our counselors at Walteria and Carr. And this is, she has a calming room, but she also has mindfulness and calming tools. If we scroll down, she's got stuff, articles. She also has at the bottom, she has coloring mandalas, which can be really good for distracting. And so these are free resources that are available to everyone. If we can go back and go to the next slide. And if we can click on Building Bridges resources, please. I want to share with you guys even more resources that we have. These are Building Bridges resources. If we scroll down, you can see a whole list. We have parent engagement. We've got, you know, parenting toolkits. We have strategies for belonging, virtual class journals. So we have a lot of great resources there as well. And if we go back and click on social emotional resources, please. So I want to bring you guys here. This is the TUSD.org / parents. And if we scroll down, I want to show you guys some great resources too. Down here at the bottom, sorry, right there where it says social emotional health and well-being. If we can click on that and go down to social emotional resources, please. Thank you. And if we scroll down, you will see there's a bunch of articles in there about COVID and talking to your children about COVID-19. There's some videos, there's parenting during COVID-19. Here we have the keys for families. So if you're going on to second step and it asks for a key, this is where the keys are for you to access it for free. This is how you can access Mind Yeti. South Bay Families Connected has some great resources. And if we scroll down a little bit more, please, thank you. You're gonna see more apps. We have a list of more apps. And then at the very bottom, you're gonna see crisis resources, because if for some reason you or a family member or one of your children's in crisis, we have crisis resources here as well, including, if we go all the way to the bottom, Care Solace, that is our online resource where if you would like to get substance abuse or mental health help for a family member, yourself, or your child, it's vetted resources where they can go in through your insurance. If you're able to identify what your insurance is, and they'll find local therapists in the area that can see you based on your insurance. Okay.
Right.
Thank you so much.
All right. So now we're going to start with strategies.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Mandy Nicholson, Behavior Analyst. Ian, I don't know if you want to go ahead and stop sharing and reshare the screen so we can get a nice full screen. I know we have a lot of text on there. It might be better if we can see it all as big as possible. Let's see if that gets rid of all the tabs at the top. Beautiful. Okay, so some strategies. I'll go on to the next slide. We have a beautiful quote here from Alexander Graham Bell. Before anything else, preparation is the key to success. So we're going to give you guys some strategies for preparing to be successful during distance learning. On our next slide, we have a few areas of organization: space, materials, and schedule. We'll cover space and materials in this section. We have a whole nother section for talking about schedules. But when we're talking about space, we're talking about your workspace, where your student and yourself will be working from home during distance learning.
Mandy, can I just jump in? For people who came in a little bit later, if you could mute your microphones and turn off your video, that would be really helpful. Thank you. All right, sorry, Mandy.
Not a problem. Thank you. Okay, so materials, we'll be going over some of the important materials you're going to need to have handy while we're conducting distance learning.
I don't want to keep coming in here.
Sorry, it sounds like we have a couple people having difficulty with their mics. There we go. And then schedule, what we're talking about here, your teachers will be providing you and your students schedules for the academics, but also the importance of having daily schedules in your home. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide where we'll go into these topics with more detail. So for space, to set up your environment, we want you to consider doing this before school starts. I know there still are a lot of questions about how much time you're going to be online with your student, the sorts of activities your teachers are going to be asking the students to do. But in order to be prepared to respond, let's try to get things done in advance so we can have all the things we need prepared. So what does a workspace at home look like? We would like it to be free from distractions. So I know myself, I have 2 young children at home. That's not an easy task. Creating separate workspaces for your children if possible. Make sure the workspace is of an appropriate size. So if you have a smaller table, desk, or chair that is more comfortable for your child, ideally not in front of the TV or right in front of their favorite toys or games. So again, free from distractions. We also want to try to keep it organized. Is there enough space to put things away? Do we need to create cubbies or boxes to keep the materials? And it should be distinct. So keeping the workspace a separate area than the play space. I know a lot of students are very comfortable working on the couch or the bed, but if that's where they're also taking their breaks and maybe not having to be as attentive or engaged, it could be sending some mixed signals when it's time to work. Next slide. So here's a couple of examples that have been shared with what the workspaces might look like in the home. So here you see dad's got his own workspace with his multiple screens there, and the student is at the table nearby with his Chromebook or laptop, and you see the school materials, backpack hanging up in the background, and materials close at hand. Next slide. This one might look familiar to some of you. We've got both students at the kitchen table with what looks like mom there trying to navigate both at the same time, which we know can be tricky. it's important to consider what the needs of your family are. So do you need to have your child or children in the same space, like this mother has here? Would you consider perhaps you need a shared space? So you might be in the same room, but working separately. Or do you and your student or your children need separate spaces, so they might be in different areas of the home in order to work effectively? But as long as you can supervise, that's the key, because remember, these students are going to be on the computer. We want to make sure that they're accessing their education and not all of the fun resources we're sharing with you at this time. Next slide.
So we were able to get a parent's view into what their home setup looked like, and we thought this would be a good example of how to create a space for our kids. So Ian, can you click on that?
The recording. I kind of, maybe we leave it on as background because I want to hear the questions. That's really what I want to hear when people ask questions. I don't know that yeah.
I'm sorry, we still have some microphones live. Can we make sure to turn the microphones off so we can hear the video? Thank you.
I'm not hearing the audio. I don't know if anyone else can hear.
There's no toys for her to play with. It's just an iPad and my iPad for the same lesson. I'm not sure if that would work for other parents or not, but I don't know if sitting at a kitchen table or on a couch. I mean, I'm sure it's difficult just to have any child be at home, yet you're supposed to be at school learning. So we just try to find the most place that would seem like a classroom, but not home. So we're just sitting in a corner, looking at a wall, basically. They're surrounded by school life.
Can you guys hear okay?
It's very faint.
You might have to turn up your mics or your volume.
Right now. That should be home soon.
I just have everything that you need. I have scissors, crayons, any other markers. Here's our word puzzle that we use. Old homework. There's some of our IEP stuff. Behind her, I have a whole easel full of things that like speech-related goals that just kind of help remind her, like, oh, maybe do this today. Or, we have the days of the week and the months. We've got letter sounds. I've got, sorry, my fingers in the way, sorry. I've got sight words and the alphabet up here. Just if they need like a quick, I got 5 minutes to be like, I can just grab this piece of paper and be like, oh, let's read like a couple sight words, or let's read the numbers really quick. Just everything at my disposal is definitely a big help. But this is where we just have everything set up. Like I said, there's nothing on the walls. It's just kind of a plain area, but she really seems to focus a lot better with no distractions.
Okay, so I know the volume didn't really work very well in the beginning, but he talks about finding a spot in your house that's free from distractions, having access to materials at his disposal. Looks like he has all of it ready to go, so that when it's time for school, everything's all set and ready to go. Next slide. So here's a list of some of the items you'll want in your work area. For academics, you'll want the worksheets you'll need for that day. If you want to organize them out in file folders for the week, that's also an option. You'll want the materials that John showed us in a box or a pencil box, like pencils, scissors, glue, crayons, manipulatives you'll need for counting, or other tangible materials you'll need ready to go, a number line, graphic organizers, headphones. And with all this, you'll be coordinating with your IEP team. as to what materials you'll need each day or throughout the week. You'll want to have all your login information accessible so you're not having to search for it when you need it. All this takes time. Preparing it ahead of time will make it just more manageable. In terms of play materials, you'll want to have preferred activities ready to go to provide that reinforcement when your child is appropriately participating. For John, he talks about having a separate table that his daughter, a separate tablet that his daughter would work for. Other items here are puzzles, coloring, board games, Play-Doh, Legos. You'll want your behavioral supports handy as well, token charts, checklists, timers, choice boards, and break cards. These are some examples that we'll go over in a bit. And again, most importantly, it's about setting all these materials up in coordination with your IEP team. So much of what we do for our kids at school becomes second nature, so use your team to help guide you. Next slide. So here's everything. Here's just another example of what a learning box could look like. Again, having everything ready to go will alleviate the added stress of having to find something specific that our kiddos might need mid-lesson. Although even when we're teaching, that happens. It's just real life. Your child may need access to sensory items, so I would have those accessible as well. Some examples here are weighted blankets, soft pillows, fidgets, yoga balls, trampolines if your kiddo needs that movement break. But again, in all of this, reach out to your IEP for sensory ideas you can use at home and that meets your child's specific needs.
So here are just a few examples of some visual cues that you can use at home. What the first was that break card. I think we all know what this emoji is saying here. He's asking for quiet. And we have a couple more examples on this slide. This is one we might use in the classroom if we're trying to prompt a student to raise their hand. It doesn't have to be just an icon. We can easily use words like work quietly if that's the reminder. If you're also trying to work from home and you need to be on a phone call or a Zoom call, that might be an important tool for you to have in your toolbox. And I think we might have one more example on this slide as it continues. Oh, ask for help if you need it. We want to promote some engagement and independence, but we don't want them sitting passively if they don't know what to do. So sometimes reminding your student that if they need help, they can come and ask you for help. Visuals, what's really nice about them is that they're static. They don't go away, unlike our verbal instructions. So if you find yourself saying, how many times do I have to tell you, or repeating yourself, consider writing it down or finding an alternate way like an icon or a gesture that communicates the same idea. Our next slide has some examples of token economy. So this was under your behavioral supports. These are things that can be personalized for your individual student. Again, we encourage you to reach out to your IEP team. We have the resources to help you create these if you think it helps to have specific pictures or names or backgrounds. Like if your student really loves Pokemon, it might help to have a Pokemon token board. Sticker charts. It also doesn't have to be this elaborate. You can use just boxes on a whiteboard or Legos on the desk or Post-its on the wall. There are a lot of varieties of ways to use token boards. But again, what's really nice about token boards is it allows for you to give multiple opportunities for reinforcement when your child is doing what you've asked them to do. They're doing what they're supposed to do. It also allows you to reinforce over time and then provide delayed reinforcement. So they're getting lots of praise and attention, but they might not get access to that amazing tablet or fun game time with mom or dad until they complete their token board. So they also, one more thing that they really do is they give a good visual tracker for progress as well as success. For each token that they've earned, that's an opportunity for them to say, yes, I did it. I'm doing well. So, and the next slide, we have a little more advanced, some charts and checklists for those of you that might have some older students. Here's an example of what those charts and checklists might look like. These could be you're written on a sheet of paper, taped to the desk, on a note card. So we have examples of some checklists to do in order, some do or do not. So sometimes if you find yourself saying stop, don't, you want to consider the opposite. If you want them to stop doing something, what is it you want them to do instead? So instead of don't make so much noise, I do need you to work quietly. Don't rock in your chair. Please do sit nicely in your chair with all 4 feet on the floor, and so on and so forth. So again, these visual cues, again, are static. They're easily referenced, and you can go back and use them again and again. Next slide. I'll turn this over.
Okay, yeah, just to carry on with those ideas, for middle school and high school students, a lot of the same apply. You're going to want to check in where your child or teenager are at emotionally. And this ties into what Mandy and Nettie both mentioned. You can leave a note. So it has the example, I am, and then the blank space. So you can leave a note somewhere, maybe on the edge of their bed or their dresser, and then they can pick up the card and just say, I am sad. I'm sad because it leads into that conversation without having the weight of coming up with all of the words to communicate feelings. This gets the conversation going. It also can lead into finding out what's motivating your child. So what will your child work for? So if you come up with a to-do list, so we have on the slide there first and then, you have your to-do list. So first I need you to finish all of your math homework, follow all the directions. Then you can have 15 minutes of free time on your phone or your video games, or you can buy a new something for the video game. You know, there's always little things that they can do to add on to what they're really enjoying. So those are those pieces there. And then also the last part is, this is an example of a workstation. So you saw the example with Jessica's video. This adds in another part. So it has the novels, there's a spiral notebook ready, there's a binder available, and it has tabs in it. So there are dividers in it. So it's all ready to go. Scratch paper. And then the little tub is great because it has snacks handy. It can go into the fridge and come out ready the next day. And of course, pens, pencils, highlighters, things like that. And you're going to want to set this up wherever your child is going to focus the most attentively. This could be on their bed, it could be on the couch or at the table, just where they're going to have the most alertness for those lessons and get their work done.
So when we're helping our kiddos participate, whether it's in a Zoom lesson or completing their work, one of the hardest things to do, and this is even among teachers, is to give our kids the wait time needed to attempt a response to a task or a direction. We want so badly for our kids to do it right and to be the best they can be that so often we jump right in to prompt them or help them before they can try on their own. So a strategy for this is to count to 3 or 5 seconds after the direction is given. So for example, if I ask Mandy, wave your hand, I would count to myself 1, 2, 3. And when you count, you're prompting yourself to wait and give your child a chance to respond. If I went ahead and showed her right away, I would have never been able to see her do it independently or even see what level of support she may need to comply with the instruction. And your IEP team will help you through this, but we thought it would be a good opportunity to go over the steps we take when we counsel our kiddos. So the whole point of it is really to get our kids to perform tasks with as much independence as possible. So we're always trying to provide them with just enough support to get them to complete the task or instruction, and not too much and not too little, and to constantly be thinking about how to fade that level of support to the point where they're independent. And again, your team will help you figure out when and how to do that. So if we're looking at the prompting hierarchy, this triangle here, the most intrusive prompts start at the bottom, where obviously a full physical prompt would be there. And even within that, you could have varying degrees of physical prompting. For example, if I physically prompted Mandy to wave, I might hold her hand out initially and guide it back and forth. Thanks for modeling, Mandy. I hope you guys can see her. But I might hold her hand out initially and guide it back. To fade that level, I might shift my from her hand to her wrist, then guide it back and forth. And
put it in your room.
Then my next level of prompting might be
Does it get thrown out?
We're hitting someone's mic.
There's ants inside of it? Look.
Okay.
Inside of the bag?
There's ants. See them?
We're hearing
Are
somebody.
they in the bag though?
Yes, they are. See them? Let me see if I can mute them. One there. Great.
Throw it out outside.
Please mute your. Please put your microphones on mute.
Okay, so to fade that level of physical prompting, I might shift my grasp again from her hand to her wrist, then guide it back and forth in the waving motion. Then my next level of prompting might be a shift from her wrist to her elbow, and then from her elbow to her shoulder, so that eventually you wouldn't need to make any physical contact with her to get her to wave. But from there, you may you may need to go to the modeling prompt where I'm just showing her what it looks like. So Mandy, wave your hand, and I'm showing her, wait 3 seconds, and then have her perform it. The next level is to fade into the visual prompt where you're pairing a picture or icon to give the student a cue. So I might say, Mandy, wave your hand, and I would show her an icon or a picture of somebody waving and have her do it. For the gestural prompt, I might just point to her hand to cue her. And for the verbal prompt, I would say, Mandy, wave your hand, so that hopefully that verbal prompt could be faded to a natural cue, which would be when she sees her friend, she would independently wave. Next slide. Here's some other helpful instructional strategies. Provide reinforcement, or in other words, something your child prefers and would be motivated to work for. And Mandy will talk about this more in a few slides, but it's really all about motivating our kids to complete their work and follow a schedule by offering a reward for completion. Stay positive. This is not in the least bit an easy period of time, and stress levels are high for everyone in the household, so try to stay upbeat and encouraging. I know it's hard. Praise often. When you see your children engaging in a behavior you want continued, encourage them in positive ways, and the behavior is likely to be repeated again in the future. And choose your battles. If getting dressed is going to be the beginning of a downward spiral, let your child spend the day in their pajamas. Focus on the schedule and pick what issues are most critical to make a stand on. If you fight all battles, you'll be too tired to fight the important ones. And finally, welcome the help of siblings. A brother or a sister can help with communication and technology support. Sometimes they're better at it than we are. So don't discourage their participation. They may also be a great way to provide that model prompt from the previous slide. Next slide. Here's another clip from our TUSD parent who gives us his advice on how to tackle this next stage in distance learning.
Another questions to you and any of the other speech or OT teachers about what we can do for her goals.
Right.
You know, I don't know if she's meeting the goals or not just by me doing it. I mean, it seems like she's doing well with what I do, but I'm sure you guys do different things when you're at school. When she's on one-on-one. You know, I only do what you guys tell me to do with like the, you know, one of our goals is the big and little adjustments, and we just work on that every day. Maybe I do it twice, and then, you know, you guys might do it once a week on the breakout session, but we'll practice it every day for maybe 5 minutes. Just hopefully it sinks in to where like, oh, okay, I gotta do this. Like we just did it the other day. She almost got 100%. You know, now it's mixing everything up, the big and little, both sides, you know, different plates. Yeah. You know, working on her name and she gets like 100% every time. It's really easy for her now. But it's just doing everything, doing a little bit every day. It seems to be helping, you know. just, you gotta have patience. That's what I've learned. It's just, I feel like as long as I remain calm, she'll remain calm. I feel like if more upset you get if her not paying attention or she's not doing what you wanted to do, then that's going to lead to a meltdown with her, and then that's what we're trying to avoid. We just want to make sure that they're learning as much as they can in the home environment rather than the school environment. I would say just have patience and just do things little by little. Don't worry about what happens tomorrow. Just kind of focus on one day at a time. I'm not a special education teacher, so I don't know if I'm doing things correctly or not. I just try to ask you a million questions. I'll ask other teachers a million questions. I just try to write things down and incorporate that and just do a little bit at a time so I don't forget. If I do forget, I'll just email you or ask me one question on what I can do. I'm having trouble with this, I'm having trouble with that, or I forgot how to phrase the response I need to give. So what do I say if she does this? So it's nice that you guys are available for questions whenever I have them. That helps with the distance learning.
So I loved how he said to be patient and to do a little bit every day, but to think about today and not to worry about tomorrow. As a teacher tackling this distance learning format initially, and still is, very overwhelming. But what we discussed as a staff before we started was we have to just try. And it's not going to be perfect and it's not going to look the same as if we were in school, but what's our alternative? So accepting this for me as my current reality allowed me to give it my all. Next slide.
So these are just a few more examples of some resources and tools that you might be able to use. So the idea of punch cards or sticker charts, we can use these across time and for specific activities. So we're really familiar with these. And if anybody's ever gone, use their Yogurtland, buy 5, the 6th one's free sort of idea. But here you have to check something off over time. This is great, like throughout the week. So for each homework activity that your student completes and turns in, they can get a punch card. This can also be used outside of an educational setting. So if there's things you want to do together as a family, so each time you get outside and spend 20 minutes moving and getting some exercise, check it off. And then maybe when you guys complete your punch card, there's a special something you can do together, or then you get to buy a new Frisbee to try something new to do outside next week. So these punch cards help you track time or help track activities over time. And again, it can be very juvenile with like a really cute dinosaur, but they can also be used, we know they work for adults, they'll also work for high school students and middle school students. The next slide. Some more on some behavioral supports. It is important to establish your expectations in advance. We want to communicate what it is we want to see before we see problem behaviors. So in the classroom, we do this by introducing and reviewing the rules. That's a big part of the beginning of every school year. I'm sure the classroom teacher will be doing that for their Zoom class. And we encourage you guys to do this for your expectations in the home as well. You also want to establish contingencies in advance. So first, then, or if you do this, when you do this, then this will happen. So that you can express that clearly using these consistent phrases. First this, then that. When this, then that. The important thing to know too about contingencies is it should include both the positive and the negative. So, hey, if I see that you are online paying attention and participating with your class, then I will give you a star on your token chart, or then you can earn points towards computer time later. But if I catch you chatting with your friends online instead of engaging in class, then you might lose iPad privileges after dinner. So you want to establish, again, the positive as well as the negative, because that allows you then to follow through later on. Whenever it's appropriate, we encourage you to provide choices. So when you have homework to do, let them decide. Do you want to do your math or your reading homework first? Do you want to do this before dinner or after dinner? If there's an opportunity to provide some choice, that can help to alleviate a lot of stress as well. And when giving directions and trying to help students through homework, it's important to state just one direction at a time. A lot of times we'll read the directions on a worksheet and there are multiple steps. Review it first, make sure you understand it, which I know sometimes has been a challenge for myself with my own kids' homework, and then go over it one step at a time. If they're doing what you ask, you want to make sure to provide that reinforcement and praise. But if they're not, you can go back to those previously established contingencies and follow through. Another couple things I have too, a trick that's in my own tool bag. I know a lot of us use a countdown. So if you're going to give a student a countdown, let's say it's time to turn off the TV and do some homework. I'm going to count from 3 to 1 and the TV needs to be off. What I do in my own home is if they listen 3, 2, wonderful. Thank you for listening the first time. If they're not listening, it might be 3, 2, 1, it's all done. And I walk over and I then turn the TV off. So again, making sure you're balancing the positive expectations with the follow through if they're not able to do so independently. Next slide. And when we talked about offering choices, here's also, you can use those visuals and icons. Sometimes our own frustration, and I think this parent did a wonderful job of explaining how our own frustrations can lead to increased frustrations with our own students. So they might want the opportunity to just try it by themselves. I just want to work for a little bit by myself. Again, the first reading, then math, or however you want to put that. I put the break card up here again because I want to make sure that there's an important distinction made between earning reinforcement. So earning the things that they want, those highly preferred activities like iPad time or just getting to lay on the couch, some engagement with you or a sibling, versus a break. Sometimes we genuinely all need a break to compose ourselves, to get up and move. So in this instance, a break is simply a temporary removal of the demand or expectation. And for those of you who have students that maybe are working on functional communication, this is something that we're not making them work for. You don't work for or earn a break, but if you ask for it, it can be granted. So if the work is getting too challenging, they've been sitting for a long time, and you start to see the wiggle worms coming up, that's also a good opportunity for you to encourage, prompt, or ask your child, would you like a break? Let's take 5 minutes and go get a snack in the kitchen. Or let's take 5 minutes and get the wiggles out and move around, and we'll come back to it. So again, if these are things that you think might be beneficial for your student, reach out to your IEP team members, and we're happy to help you develop these tools to use.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We're going to kind of move into scheduling and the importance of scheduling and a few different types of schedules. And as we're talking, just want you to keep in mind that no matter what developmental level your kiddo is at, your IEP team can help. So, you know, when we're talking about schedules, there's going to be one that works for you and your family, and please don't hesitate to ask your team to help. Some of our kiddos aren't using schedules yet, and your team can help break down those steps to help your kiddo use a schedule. Okay, so there's visual schedules. Visual schedules, like Mandy touched on already, are important. You know, many of our students are visual learners. They can help us reduce our verbal prompts. They can help students complete non-preferred tasks if they know what's coming next is the more preferred task. You know, and as your children become more fluent with a schedule, you may find yourself able to say, go check your schedule, as opposed to, I already told you to do that. I've told you 3 times. You know, then you can start saying, hey, go check your schedule. It'll show you what's next. Written checklists, if you're like me, you know, a lot of people like to check things off a list. So if your kiddo is older and can read, there's an example here on the slide. You can write it out. They might like to erase it off a dry erase board or check it off. Daily schedules can be really important. They can also be super overwhelming. So if you have, 20 different things on your daily schedule, that might be overwhelming for a kiddo. So you might want to fold it in half and just do a few, or break it down even more just so you can get to lunch. And then we'll start again with another schedule. So like I said, it's really dependent on your child, but that daily schedule can be nice so they can look ahead a little bit and say, okay, recess is coming. I get to go outside and have my movement break. And part of what we wanted to stress a little bit today is those movement breaks, and getting away from the computer is going to be really important. And your teacher is probably going to be scheduling breaks throughout the day anyways, and they're going to help you with this so that you have a scheduled break so everybody can take a moment away from the computer and reset your mind and your body. Weekly schedule, again, it can be really helpful. It also can cause stress for your child. So you really just need to know your child and work with your team on this. It can help children to see what's coming up next in their week. It can also maybe cause a little bit of stress. So talk with your team about that. Is a weekly schedule going to be helpful? Is it going to be helpful for them to know, hey, I don't have speech today, but I have speech on Thursday. And that'll kind of help to organize themselves and organize their behavior. As far as scheduling within a work schedule, that can be really helpful too. So even breaking it down, Mandy talked a little bit about it. You can take a small little dry erase board. Those are super helpful. And you might be able to break a task down and be able to write, okay, number 1, for example, write your name. Number 2, color. Number 3, cut. Number 4, tell mom when I'm done. Something like that, where you can break down those steps, and then the child can be independent and work through an activity and then let you know when they're finished. Go ahead, Ian, for next slide. And these are just some examples. There's hundreds of ideas if you do a Google search, but essentially you want to find the right fit for you and your family and your child. Some people really like having it in a binder. It's nice and neat, and they can flip through the pages, whether it be a schedule that goes across or a schedule that goes up and down. These are just kind of handy little ways to do your schedule. The one on the fridge, I thought was pretty neat. They used a pocket chart, and you can just slip the cards in and out as you make the cards. You can fill it all up, or you can use 3, whatever works best for the moment or for the day. And then go ahead, Ian, one more slide. Okay, and so the benefits of scheduling is that it provides consistency and routine, right? That's what helps us as adults organize our behavior. It also helps our kids organize behavior. We rely on them heavily at school, as I'm pretty sure you're finding out at this point. They're also easy to reference. So I have mine on my phone. Our kiddos, if we post them, if they have them on their desk, they're always there, as Mandy said. Especially they're visual too, so that they're just always there when our verbal is not always there. As far as breaking down the day, we talked about this a little bit already, but it can really be helpful. You just have to work with your team on what might be overwhelming for your child and what they might be able to tolerate. So like I said, too many things on a list can be overwhelming, but it may also be helpful for some children to know how many more things do I need to complete before I get my reinforcement, or before I'm done and I can say, yay, I did it. And that's one of the pictures here is an example of a check-in schedule. So this is a schedule within an activity, right? It just breaks down that check-in schedule of having to unzip their backpack, take out their snack, and put their folder in the cubby. Okay, so that's a nice way of breaking those 3 steps down, and then they know they're done. And then the last part, it lets a child know when they're done, right? I did it. It helps to motivate a child through a non-preferred activity if they're working towards completion, and that's reinforcement enough, or if they're working towards completion and a preferred activity. Okay, so I'm gonna let Alicia take over from here, and she's going to talk a little bit more about schedules.
Hi, so this is an actual student schedule in a Google Calendar, so utilizing technology to organize their lives. Consistent daily routines support active learning, appropriate behavior, and a sense of independence, and it has the student participate directly in decision making, which is a really powerful skill. If we go back to the beginning of our presentation, we talked about the Mind Yeti and how hubbub makes everything more difficult. And so scheduling is a form of Mind Yeti. And Mandy spoke about calming rooms. So you see in this schedule how we have all of the students' courses, but you can involve those times of calm into your schedule and maybe put or add a moment of going into a calming room. They spoke to organization. Is there space to put things away? And a calendar, a schedule is a wonderful organization tool to put those tasks for the day in their proper place. The next piece was the visual cue. So you will receive, when a teacher invites students to attend a Google Meet or a Zoom session, when it is, you receive the invitation, you accept the invitation, it can go right into your Google Calendar. It will technologically place that event into the calendar so that you can see by this that it has the link for the class. It's got a join by phone as well as join with Google Meet. It's got the time as well as the teacher. So, and it lets you know when you're going to receive the alert. This is 10 minutes before. So that is a great technological tool that can be used for your child. Next slide. These were reviewed by Nettie at the beginning as well when you go into TUSD, and you can see, to get more familiar with Google and get more familiar with the technology, you've got to play with it. So there are PD links, and you can move into those places so that you could better understand how to utilize Google Calendar. Every single time I go into it, I discover something new, and I can actually link my calendar with my family's calendar to see what things are coming up. I can tell you that's a little bit overwhelming, so I prefer to use a certain screen where I can see my calendar and then to move into my children's. Both are in high school, and they really appreciate putting their grocery list. So we have a day where they get to pick dinner for the evening, and they're able to put that into their calendar, and they love to remind. They also love to have those reinforcers of, hey, I finished this task. It's a Yogurtland kind of day. And it was really important. It was shared with me by my son's counselor that their schedules need to have positive, something to look forward to, even if it's very small. It's very motivating and encouraging. So thank you so much. Home schedule, the COVID at School learning plan. So we saw this in varying forms from the beginning of the scheduling section of really having, we're going to wake up, brush teeth, get dressed, make a bed. My colleagues mentioned how important it is to put on an appropriate clothes for school, to get your backpack ready, to hang it up, unzip it, pull out your materials for the day, set your intention or your plan. Screen-free academic time is huge. The feelings check-in we talked about with the Mind Yeti. We talked about different proponents to putting that in place. Eating lunch and having a snack time or a break, really important in your schedule. And that time for dinner and family is a huge motivator, a time where you can sit together and really recap the day and all of the positive advancements that have been made, as well as the challenges.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to be talking about communication and creating community today. Wanted to first start with this quote from Coretta Scott King: "The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members." And I think this quote really embodies Torrance, and I think we're all amazed by the actions of our community during this pandemic. And as we transition to the new school year, we really want to continue to build upon our existing relationships and strengthen our family partnerships, our family school partnerships. And, you know, as we approach the school year, please know that our special education department and all our schools here in Torrance are working to improve in the areas of need. And I know parents, you still have many questions. You know, will my child be able to academically keep up through distance learning? You know, are my child's learning styles and needs compatible with the digital modes of learning? But, you know, please trust that the teacher to be the instructor, and you parents to be, you know, the facilitator, the observer, and our partner. So I want to talk a little bit about communication and how to get involved without spending your entire day monitoring classwork. So first, we want to figure out how does your child learn best? You can start with the conversation. You know, let's map out what successful learning will look like for you in this weird online world. Parents, you have this unique window into what kind of learner that your child is, and you can use this information to help figure out what supports they need and to be successful, and how you can share this information with your child's teachers and with the IEP team. You know, some of the things that you want to keep in mind is, do they get excited about certain topics? Do they shut down for tests but come alive for portfolios or projects? What does accountability look like in your home? Are video games or their phone or the internet distracting to them? Do they find group work boring? Would they rather work more independently? Oops, pardon me, I hit the wrong thing there. And then secondly, ask for feedback. I know it's difficult taking on this new role as like the pseudo teaching assistant, and we empathize with you, but we want you to work with your teachers, your case managers, service providers on best modes of communication. You know, what works best for your family. You know, is it a daily check-in? Is it weekly? Is it bi-weekly? You know, constant communication is gonna help us ensure that both schools and homes are responsive to your child's needs. And finally, with a little empathy and commitment to our communities, we can all get through this fall together and beyond. So here are some additional ways to stay connected with your school. Participate with your school's Q&A. I believe many of this particular school sites are going to be holding parent Q&As about this upcoming year. Participate in school spirit days. Attend online school events. Stay current on the classroom assignments. Network with teachers, with parents. Set up Zoom play dates. Volunteer to help. Volunteer together and talk to your school about potential virtual school opportunities. And Nettie kind of touched upon these things already, but we have a multitude of family resources here at TUSD. And this is an actual link here, but I won't go into it at the moment because we're a little short on time. But you know, on our website, under the parent tab, under the 2021 reopening piece is a number of resources that we have available for families. We have educational resources, Family Welcome Enrollment Center. We have the Building Bridges resources, which is what Nettie already spoke to you guys earlier about. We have district partners. We have there's a list of upcoming activities through the City of Torrance, through the YMCA, and through the Torrance Public Library. And then there's also a list in there in regards to essential services. And finally, we have additional community resources like the Friendship Foundation, Michael's Learning Center, as well as Torrance Cares Connection, which is the City of Torrance's site set up for different resources for families. And Elaine, I'm going to send it off to you now.
Okay. So we know that we didn't have information that addressed every single one of your concerns. This is such a challenging time for families, and we really do feel for you. We miss you, and we miss the kids. We would like, we'll share the PowerPoint. Sorry, I just saw a question on the chat. We'll share the PowerPoint on the district website. We're going to share the video. We're going to take the questions from the chat right now. If you'd like to start putting your questions in the chat, we'd really appreciate it. And we'll answer the questions on the chat, and we'll also be posting all 3 of these from today on the district website so that you'll have access to it. Because we know that you came with big hopes, and we know that we answered what we could from the questions that we've had so far, but everybody's child has different needs. So I really do want to encourage you to reach out to your school teams to individualize the things that we talked about today for your particular child. So let's see if there's any questions in the chat.
Okay, the first question is from Andrea Estrada. How will PE classes be handled?
So general education PE will be handled for our special education students just the way that general education PE is being handled, and that is under, that would be a gen ed question. I don't know. For adaptive PE, if your child has adaptive PE on their IEP, the adaptive PE teachers will be providing adaptive PE. So in some cases, they'll be doing it via Zoom. In some cases, they'll be providing videos for your family to participate in at home. The adaptive PE teacher will be tailoring the adaptive PE lessons to how your child can best access them. Next question.
I have a question from Carrie about sharing the direct address for the website to the PowerPoint. Is that going to be on TUSD.org?
It'll be on the district website, TUSD.org.
Okay. Is there a certain tab we should find it under?
Nettie,
has that. Yeah.
no,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Lane, or Allie, it's going to be under the TUSD Parents tab. And then
okay.
if parents select the 2021 reopening tab, hit that, scroll to the bottom, and then it'll be under, I think it's Parent Family Resources. And we'll throw it in there.
Ian, maybe you can just type that in the chat. So
Sure.
that's just, that'd be great. Thanks.
Felipe Arroyo asked, did you mention kids' Google Calendar can be shared with parents?
So how the Google Calendar works is there can be given, you can have access to varying calendars, and these calendars can have different color codes. So how I'm able to see my own children utilize Google Calendar, and then I can click over and I can see their color code in comparison to my color code. You can see them all literally at one time. It's a little bit overwhelming for me and confusing. I don't choose to do that, but it is definitely, you have access and ability to do that via Google.
Could you also log on to your students' email to USD and access Google Calendar that way? Because the parents were given the students' USD accounts and also their passwords in order to have access to Google Classroom and, in case your child needs support.
I'm so sorry, Fiona, you cut out, so I'm just going to repeat what I heard you say. So parents are privy to their students' usernames and passwords and could access their child's calendar in that form. Yes. Okay.
Johnson's asked, are there any plans to facilitate social contact between our kiddos and their typical peers outside of instructional time?
So we have instructed the school sites that if student, if it's, I'm not sure I got the question right, but if students have social opportunities and inclusion on their IEPs, then inclusion opportunities are to be scheduled at the school sites as well. So when a student has inclusion opportunities on their IEP and then they are scheduled with a class, and they'll be included in the things that are going on in that classroom. So yes, we're also working with some of our assist providers to arrange for, if students have social groups on their IEPs, to facilitate social groups among our kids in accordance with their IEP. Hope that answered the question. We aren't planning like after school clubs or anything like that at this point for our kids with special needs.
Okay. That's, wait, let's see. That's the last question that I see. Is there anything? There is, Carrie McMahon expressed that she's trying to access the PowerPoint link. I believe that was already discussed.
Yeah, we have, everything hasn't been posted yet, but it will be. And yeah.
All right. And at this time, that's the last question.
All right, well, the timing was good then, because we're just about at our 11:30.
Mrs. Johnson didn't make a comment. Previously, they could video call their friends via their student Google accounts, and that capability was shut down.
I'm sorry, can you read that again?
So previously, they could video call their friends via student Google accounts, but that capability was shut down.
Okay, and I don't know why. So if there were problems with it or not, so that would be something to research, because that does seem like a good tool for our kids to have, you know. We do really encourage you to do the distance, whenever you can, to have, you know, bring your kids together in a distance format, even though it seems like they're on screens a lot. It's a different vibe when they're on screens, not monitored, not being forced to participate in a classroom and just talking and laughing. I observed it with, you know, mine are college age, but the stress level is way down after an opportunity to be on the Zoom. Of course, then the Zoom had to get moved out of the room, because I guess I was listening and stuff was being said that moms shouldn't hear. So anyway, so I'm sure you guys are getting a lot of that too. We really do hope for a soon return to normal. In the meantime, we reach across the screen and ask you to communicate with us, and know that we understand that you're struggling, because we are too. All right. Okay. Thank you. And thank you to you amazing special education department for all the work you put into this and all the work you do every day. You're the best. All right. Bye.
Everyone. Bye. Thank you.